Hello.
Hello.
I didn't want to leave any people waiting in case anybody is here. Hello. Welcome to the Magic Treehouse Readalong finale. Thanks for joining us, Bailey. Bailey was trying to finish the last book before we started, but she did not.
Not quite.
So that's
So
great.
close. I feel like I've read enough to talk about it.
Yeah. But hello, you might notice we're joined by an extra guest today. I thought we were going to have 2 guests, but
Here we are.
Lizzie can represent both of them. She has that power.
Yeah, I will. I do.
Lizzie, our faithful Magic Treehouse reader.
Yes.
You've
From the
hung on.
beginning.
This is the end.
Thank God.
Yeah, that's kind of how I'm feeling.
I was reading these ones and I was like, I'm gonna miss this.
Oh, I'm gonna miss it, and at the same time, I'm ready. But don't worry, another Magic Treehouse book comes out in May.
That's what I was like. We almost could have just waited until next month and done the 2, but here we are.
But here we are. So, order of events for today. Basically, we're going to be talking through 4 Magic Treehouse books that some of us read. We're going to try to keep our commentary shorter than usual, because usually I talk way too much about Magic Treehouse. And then we're going to do a live reading of the most recent book, Time of the Turtle King. I don't know if anybody else has their copies, but I have a copy on my iPad, so full-size illustrations, here we come. I've got us covered on the pictures. So, orders of things. We started with Shadow of the Shark.
Yes.
What did we rate it?
I've just been like really struggling to get through these in general. I did give this one 3 stars, but I'm very much just like, I don't want to say suffering through them, but I'm just like, okay, it's the same thing. Like, we're still doing the same thing.
Yeah,
I liked this one. I thought it was
fun. So you said you gave it 4 stars, Lizzie?
Yeah.
Okay. I gave it 3.5, so I'm right in between. And I don't remember what happened in this one fully. I know that this was different because it's the only time I think that they've not had a mission.
Yeah, they were just like, go have fun.
They were on vacation.
Yeah, you are correct.
And so that was weird.
I feel like all of these are a little different.
Yeah.
Because they're not in a set of 4. They're all like individual
As I'm like,
things.
we're still doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And then in the same breath say these were all a little different.
Yeah. So the setup for this one is basically they're told like Merlin and Morgan haven't ever properly thanked you for all your hard and dangerous work, which like amen to that. They've put them in some terrible situations.
This does give me the vibe, like all of these that we're about to talk about, that like maybe Mary Pope is gonna finally give it up.
Yeah.
That's what I'm feeling like too. I feel like all of these are like they could be a finale.
Yeah, which is why it's weird that there's another one coming out.
But yeah, it's not
next month.
But the fact that she went back to the regulars and these next 3 kind of are like they could be the last Merlin missions. I don't know what she's up to.
Yeah, no idea.
She must be old, right? How old is she?
I have no idea because I don't know how old she was when she started writing them.
No, but also when I listen to the audiobooks and they are like read by her, she didn't sound as old as I was expecting.
Yeah.
But she has to be old.
She's 74.
Good for you, Mary Pope. Good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so even Jack and Annie point out that they don't have a mission, and Teddy says that you do. As I told you, your mission is to have a wonderful time. So that's a setup, and they're planning on going snorkeling. Fun.
The thing that was wild about this one at the very beginning, I will say, to jump in, my one thing I wanted to talk about is that they have a cell phone.
Yes.
Yes.
It's a modern world.
It just feels wrong when she does it because of the passage of time in this series. And
also, they're kids. They're so young.
Oh,
But
kids
they are running
kids
around
that age would have
town
phones.
alone, like without
I
adult
know,
supervision.
but it just was very weird to me
I don't know.
that
for
they were
me-
out here with their iPhone or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, one, it wasn't an iPhone, I don't think. It gave the same
They just said cell phone.
it gave the same vibes as when all through high school my sister and I shared a track phone. It's the same vibe.
Like until senior year?
Yes.
Martine!
Yes. And so like same vibe for me. Like very safe, like can't do much but call for help if you need it situation.
Wow.
And shared
It did
between
have a video
siblings.
camera though.
Yes.
Yeah, I picture like we were in the era, I mean, what year was that published? I'm not sure, but like in the era of like Blackberries.
Yeah.
Is
That's
what
the
they
vibe.
were holding.
Vibe I got. So I don't know. I've seen kids younger have full phones that they have.
Yeah, it just
in
felt
these
it felt
phones.
wrong to me.
That's
It
fair.
felt wrong to me.
Okay, so they go to Mexico.
They think they're in modern time.
Correct.
Assume.
And they get on this, it's a raft, right? They get on this raft.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's not a very bougie raft, but it's
Then they almost die.
floating device.
Yeah.
Again.
Again, like here we are again.
My favorite quote from the shark situation is, we have to use the gold coin. We can only use them to have fun. You don't think it would be fun to escape that shark?
Yep. I just was not. Yeah. I don't want to be the Debbie Downer today. My heart wasn't in it.
That's fair. That's fair. And so then they're wishing for things like money because they think they're going to go to a luxury hotel or something.
Right.
They are
That
not.
would have been wild if they did.
And they go to this place that they then think is a theme park. It is not. And Jack even thinks, if this is all part of the show, these guys are taking it way too seriously. And they eventually come to the conclusion that, quote, this isn't a theme park.
Right. We are not when we thought we were.
Right. And Annie says, I was starting to think that too. And so it brought them back in time, which is much more normal for us, I would say, in Magic Treehouse. And they meet these people, and they're like, we need to get out of here. And then they meet, basically, the, like, person in charge thinks that Jack is going to be his heir.
Yeah.
Instead of his daughter.
Correct.
But the daughter helps them get out.
I mean, I like the message of this book that we're getting towards.
Yeah. We're basically they send a message back with their cell phone
that a woman
to her dad.
Yeah, the whole like video recording was very I want to say I just felt like it was a little lazy that that's how they were going to get a message across.
Why?
Because like they couldn't think of a better way to send a message and have it be believable than to like break the time barrier.
I mean, they were. It wasn't necessarily break the time barrier. It was to look magical. And there's that famous like Arthur C. Clarke quote that like science that's like not understood resembles magic, right?
Okay, fine.
I mean, I guess that's why the king wanted Jack to be his heir, because he like had all this stuff that seemed so magical and different. So they're
Yeah.
like, let's use something magical and different. But I don't like the whole cell phone thing in general, so I'm kind of with you.
Yeah, you made that very clear, Lizzie. Yeah, and anyway, so then they go back and their message worked and the girl ruled. Sweet.
I would have liked to see like him getting the message.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
But if we had seen that, like, we've only ever been from Jack and Annie's perspective.
We all right. And this was them actively choosing that they couldn't go back.
Right.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I understand.
Bailey's done with me.
I'm done with this series. Literally after today.
Okay, well, Balto of the Blue Dawn.
Okay, well.
I'm trying to keep it peppy, Bailey.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm here. I'll turn my pep on.
So, what did we rate this one?
I also gave this one 4 stars. I liked it.
Okay.
I just like these. They're fun.
Like a 2.
Okay, I gave it a 3. So once again, I'm in between your 2 scores exactly.
Yeah.
I
liked this more than some. I think because these two are this one and the next one are the ones I listened to on audiobook, and I do think that was a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
Just knowing how I read and just the connecting to the little characters they throw at you was harder for me. So I think if I would have eyeball read this one, it probably would have also been like a 3.
Fair.
So in this, I love a dog.
Yeah, there are dogs in this one.
Yes.
In this one, they go to Alaska when there's a diphtheria outbreak, and there's a big storm, and the medicine's not going to get to them in time. So they learn how to dog sled.
Yeah.
They become expert dog sledders by magic.
Yes, for 12 hours. And yet, it's the only time in the series where they become experts for a certain amount of time, and then they later use that skill because Annie used it in another book.
I forgot that. This is the second dog sled.
Is
it? No. Wait. You're talking about the dogs in the mountains with the avalanche, right?
Yeah.
And I'm talking about the fact that it's in, I think, Night of the Ninth Dragon, maybe. She uses one of the commands from this, and it says that it's a command that she learned in this book.
Oh,
yeah. When they became
I missed a lot.
Climbers, they broke their arms once they forgot how to do it.
Right, like the what they learned is completely gone after.
Yeah,
usually,
but not this apparently.
I mean, in the later books, we keep talking that she has circled back to things from previous books more and more.
Yeah,
that their experiences are sticking with them.
Yeah,
because I think it was in the last one we read this month, that Annie mentions that they have a lot of skills.
Mm-hmm.
I liked the skills thing. That was funny.
Okay. We're not there yet.
We'll get there.
But yeah, in this one, I do want to share a funny quote from the beginning when Teddy is sending them on their mission. He says, "Be safe, be well, and do not freeze to death." And Jack says, "Gee, thanks. Good advice."
Yeah.
So they go back and they learn that there's a quarantine and this outbreak, and they do make a reference to some previous things they've experienced. Do you think something scary is about to happen? Said Annie. Scary, said Jack, like an earthquake or a volcano. And I was like, yeah, they've lived through some terrible things.
Yeah.
But then this was also a very good pro-vaccine book. We can't catch it. We had vaccines.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hooray for vaccines. Jack and Annie are vaccinated, confirmed.
I mean, that's some insight into their parents, I feel like.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
And then I did not take another note until the last chapter.
Perfect. I love your recaps more than I enjoyed reading these.
Good. I feel like I'm annoying you.
Oh.
Okay. Yeah, so at the end they get gifted a dog.
Yes. And they
and
Annie wanted a big dog and a little dog.
Yeah. And they say, I hope mom and dad will let us keep him. And I'm just thinking how mad these parents must have been when they walked off with this dog.
Again, like, why can't you show
Like-
us these moments?
Where did you find the dog?
Exactly.
Right.
You send your kids alone into the woods at least
And they
once a
come
month.
back with a dog.
Yeah. Which I do like know people in real life who definitely brought dogs home that were not approved to come home. And
Yeah, but
They
I
still
just like I feel like Jack and Annie are already walking a thin line where they're like, we're saying we're going to school and then going to the Magic Treehouse
like,
instead.
do you think their parents are completely clueless still at this point? Like, you think they never say weird stuff?
I
They
mean,
have to.
we've seen them say weird stuff and their parents think it's a joke.
I know, but it's like, how many times can it go over their head? I also think they're getting to the age where they're like past.
I don't know. Look me in the eye right now, Bailey, and say that if Mabel started telling
Right,
you
you would not believe
she's
it.
traveling in a Magic Treehouse.
Right, you would think it was fake.
Right.
But I'm like, they have to like sometimes share like knowledge that they've learned that you would be like, how do you
How
know
did you
that?
know that in books?
I would be so questioning.
I
But
don't
yeah,
know.
kids be
I feel like
crazy.
there are natural explanations for a lot of the things that they bring up. So
We studied it in school.
yeah, we read it in a book. They're always at the
I
library.
saw a movie.
I read a book about it.
I went in the woods and traveled in my treehouse.
Yeah, exactly. Does anybody else have any more thoughts on this one?
I don't think so.
Lizzie?
It was like kind of weird and random that Merlin was like, no one can remember you in this one specifically when they've never been like concerned with like preserving the timeline before.
Yeah.
Like they've always just been going back and messing with history. And this time it's like, no one can remember. You can't be heroes.
Mary Pope does like to make new rules at her convenience.
Yeah.
But it didn't even seem to like have any impact on anything. Like it was, why was that even there?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it did have an impact, and like the dog was remembered instead of them.
Oh yeah, the dog remembered them at the end. That was
True.
nice.
Like the dog became famous, but really
Right.
it was.
Yeah, it was them. Yeah.
Good point. Good point.
Thank you.
I feel bad that you think that I'm crabby. I'm not crabby.
You're good. That was random.
I just feel like I do have negative things to say, but it's not like.
No, I'm just trying to like find the ideal pace for this because I really don't want to talk about these forever and then have to sit through an entire book.
I don't believe that anybody is still concerned with our pacing and in-depthness.
Well, I am. So Night of the Ninth Dragon.
Look at Ruby's comment.
Mary Pope probably never expected a group of adults to read her entire bibliography back to back, though.
As I'm like, this is exhausting. You are correct, Ruby.
She'd probably hate us. If she ever found us, she'd hate us. But
yeah, yikes.
I love you, Mary Pope.
It is that thing of like, if you're no longer enjoying it, why are you still doing it? and that's on completionism.
I'm still enjoying myself. I am
I'm
glad
sorry.
it's done, but okay, so Night of the Ninth Dragon. What'd we rate it?
Like a 1.
It's going down as we continue.
I could not pay attention to this audiobook.
I gave it 2. I thought this one was boring. There was like nothing, no pizzazz.
I gave it 3. I thought it was normal.
Correct me if I'm wrong. This is how hard of a time I had. They went to Camelot, correct? Yeah. Okay, and so yeah, I just felt like this far into the series, we're needing some new, funky, fresh ideas here.
I mean, they did do something funky and fresh.
I couldn't tell you. Please tell me.
They had to get to Avalon.
Okay, yes.
Right, so that the king wouldn't die. Okay. And they were also not called by anybody like that usually called them on a mission. They were called by Queen Guinevere.
I think that I probably also wasn't following. I don't know where these places or people are.
Yeah, that's because as we established in the Legendborn chat, you don't know anything about Arthurian legend.
Yeah, because I couldn't have told you that's what this was about. So thank you so much. Now I'm just trying to think about Legendborn, and when we talked about that, and I was like, I have no clue. Couldn't follow this either.
Yeah, because that's the whole thing. It's even something that I brought up in that live show, I'm pretty sure, is I'm like, well, Magic Treehouse, the magic is based around that. Anyway.
Wow, that is like full circle moment for me. Okay.
So that's probably what you didn't understand. But basically, they have their new puppy. They're trying to take good care of it. They want to brush his teeth.
Oki?
Yep, Oki.
Oki.
And so they put it in Jack's backpack and they bring it along on their mission.
I just think I've never had a small dog. So like that stuff is funny to me.
It very much was Ernie coded because we.
I mean, I picture trying to bring Huck along anywhere.
Yeah, no, it reminded me of Ernie. Because we do carry him around all the time. But anyway, so they were brought there by Queen Guinevere, and they were like, "What the heck did you do calling us? Like, how did you know to do that?" And
who the heck are you?
Like, Morgan Le Fay taught me how to do this in case something happened, and guess what? Something's happened. So they're there, and they say like some people came, they attacked, and this is a favorite quote of mine. She said, "Fortunately, the thieves were not interested in books. They did not steal a single one. Good, I'm glad," said Jack. Books were more valuable to him than gold.
I do remember that. You saying that made me remember that.
I love him. Anyway, and so they find out not only are Teddy, Kathleen, Morgan, and Merlin outside of Camelot, they're in Avalon. King Arthur also needs to get to Avalon to heal, and the dragon that is their way into Avalon has been stolen. So, dun, dun, dun.
They have to get the dragon back.
They have to get the dragon back. So they go on this quest, as it were. And yes, here's where I highlighted where Annie. Okay, it says, "Hike," Annie shouted, using a command they'd learned from Alaskan dog's letters. And I was like, I see you. You can't escape my notice. Yeah, and there is a lot of pressure on this mission, not just because somebody could die, because they've faced lots of people almost dying before, but basically because all of Camelot is at stake. Jack thinks, so everything depends on King Arthur, which means everything depends on us.
Is Camelot as a whole, like, is that an Arthurian thing?
Yes.
My whole existence is because I also would say, like, this whole time I've been questioning like what that place is and why it exists and why we talk about it so much in this series.
I don't know what to do with you. So anyway, they visit some people that tell them things about themselves, like sometimes you move too swiftly, you lack patience. That's right, that's me, Annie said. Sometimes you worry too much and do not act quickly enough. Yes, that's me, said Jack. The king is not doing good. But the queen says that he never gives up, and Annie says, we do that too. We never give up.
Yeah. I do love Jack and Annie.
I love them. They're precious. They eventually do get the dragon, and they save the day, per usual. Per usual. And then they go to the dog park. So.
Yeah.
Cute.
Yep.
1 star.
Cute. 1 star. Awesome. Any other thoughts on that one?
No, but I actually have thoughts about the next one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Opinions, not plot-wise, but just about how it exists.
Okay, Lizzie, do you have any more thoughts on Ninth Dragon?
No. I just thought it had no pizzazz. That's my only thought on Dragon.
No pizzazz.
No pizzazz.
Okay. Final book before we get to our live reading. We can do this. It's the 1 super edition.
Yeah.
Danger in the Darkest Hour. What did we rate it?
I was liking it. And I actually think that like that is a thing that she should have like continued more, is that like next step even to like the next age group older.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was really liking that it was a little bit more like towards middle grade. I still don't think it's like quite middle grade.
Yeah.
But we're taking a step up. We were getting more information, more. It
Is
felt
this the one you didn't finish?
Huh?
Is this the one you didn't finish?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I also am interested in World War II.
You are? I didn't know that about you.
I mean, yeah.
Okay.
I feel like there's just a lot of fiction that exists about World War II.
Correct.
So I feel like I have experienced quite a bit of it, or like read quite a bit of it, and I generally enjoy it.
Well, now you've read quite a bit of Arthurian legend stuff, and you still have no idea what's happening.
It's still going over my
head. Lizzie, what did you rate this one?
I gave this 4 stars.
Same.
I liked it. It was definitely a tone shift. Like, I feel like the fact that it was like whatever is called special edition does not draw enough attention to the fact that it's like a whole, like Bailey said, a whole step up age group wise.
Right, like we are. I'm not sure how old Jack and Annie are, but the story feels like the next like reading level or 2 up.
Both like prose wise and also content wise.
Yes.
Absolutely. And this one, I think I did see it was written in like 2015. So it is one of the newer ones, but then she clearly didn't like do more like this yet because she's going back to.
Yeah.
I just added the one we're going to read live to Bookly, and that one's only like 80 something pages again because it's the original. She's all over the place at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say, not in the title, but if you read like in the description of the book, it does give like a statement that it's for like the next group of readers. So they do like try to inform parents.
Right, that this is harder to read. I do wonder how this book was received, as to maybe that being why more didn't happen.
Yeah. All right. Shall we get into it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. We start off.
What did you rate it, Martine?
Oh, 4 stars.
Okay.
Yeah. We start off, and Jack is in the middle of a good book, but Annie interrupts him. And she interrupts him because there is a pigeon, which, to be fair, weird place for a pigeon.
Yes.
But he says, "You called me away from my book to see a pigeon," which I related to.
It's just so Jack and Annie.
Yeah. But they figure out that the pigeon has a note, and it's from Teddy, and immediately this throws up a red flag for Jack and Annie that Teddy has written to them.
And not
And they
Merlin.
say, "What happened? Did he goof up again?" "I'll bet he did," said Jack.
The faith in Teddy. Oh my gosh, T.
And then also in this one, we're back to the way things should be, where Jack is obsessed with Kathleen, and I missed that energy.
I forget about that.
Yeah, because they don't bring it up in the.
Also, I'm just thinking as we talk about this, how weird it is how like Teddy and Kathleen came to be, and that they're now still like existing in the series in such a big way.
Yeah,
Maybe
I was
more
thinking
you
about
realize
that.
it
How
was really weird for them to only interact with adults.
They sometimes see kids on their missions.
On their missions, but like you
Not
travel
in real
with
life.
a child in a treehouse.
Okay, yeah, fair.
What were you gonna say, Lizzie?
I was thinking it's like interesting how like kind of along the way, along these like 65 books or whatever, we've gotten some new additions to the cast. Like we got
yeah.
Teddy, we got Kathleen, because we got Teddy really early on.
Yeah.
And then now we have this dog that presumably in future books is like a new addition.
That's
to the
what
cast.
I was just gonna say. Like, because of how she's writing these and like going back almost through different series, like I would assume if she writes more Merlin missions that Oki's gonna exist, but that the dog can't exist in the original ones. Like to me, the dog can't exist in Turtle King.
I guess we'll see.
That would require a
Yeah.
consistent timeline now, and we don't have that.
True. Yeah.
But we'll see.
So anyway,
If that dog exists in Turtle King, I'm gonna have an issue.
They find out that this pigeon is a member of the National Pigeon Service.
Yes.
Which is incredible. And that Teddy and Kathleen have been involved in World War II. Yeah. And they ask the important questions that we all immediately were asking, which was, what does this war have to do with you and Kathleen? Teddy says that when Merlin looked into the future, he saw this frightful time, and he saw how important it was to bring hope to the British leaders. So he sent Teddy and Kathleen to London. And then they met with the leaders there and actually became agents in the Special Operations Executive.
So silly.
So silly.
That in every instance they're like, who could we use? These children.
They were disguised to look older than they are. But it was funny.
But Jack and Annie weren't. And Jack and Annie were like fully just being kids.
Jack and Annie have never been aged, have they? Jack and Annie have never been aged when they travel.
I think there's been like one time where they did, or they've used disguises.
Right.
They've used disguises to look older, but I don't think like when they've traveled, they've aged ever.
Yeah.
Like they're usually just trying to hide.
Yeah. But Teddy and Kathleen are magical, and Jack and Annie are not.
Yeah.
And also they're having repeated prolonged contact with world leaders in this war. So
okay, true.
Yeah. And then they're given a code to find Kathleen, and Teddy's like, obviously I needed you because I know you're expert decoders. And Jack says, you're kidding us. And then they go about trying to solve this mission, but first they have to jump out of a plane.
Yeah.
And they ask if Teddy is coming with them. And Teddy's like, no. So he basically asked for help and then dipped hard.
But when
Yeah.
Jack, I think, is like, wait, we have to jump out of a plane, doesn't somebody say, like, well, I don't know how else you think you're going to get?
It's actually, it says right here, it's time to put on your parachutes. Parachutes, said Jack.
Okay,
Yes,
yeah.
you cannot jump from a plane without parachutes.
Yes.
Wait till you see we were
That's
going to
the
jump
line
from
I
a
was
plane.
thinking of.
So they do that. They're assigned French names.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which I just would like to point out. I don't know why they named him
Jean?
Jean instead of Jacques.
Jacques?
Oh, literally.
But that's okay.
Mary Pope has given up.
Yeah. And then yeah, they're given 8 simple steps. Teddy is like, it's easy, it's just 8 steps. They're like, 8, that's a lot of steps. Jack writes it down.
A lot of steps.
Jack.
I highlighted something that's right after this.
Is it the amount of training they had?
Yeah, you must have had a lot of training.
Indeed,
a full week.
Yes, which, you know, there are important careers that have woefully lacking training.
Yup.
IRL too. Okay. They don't have magic because Teddy did mess up and said he would give them the wand, but did not. But that's okay because we have a lot of skills. Like what? Well, like just a lot of skills.
Yep. That's what I wanted to talk about 3 books ago.
Yes. Yeah.
I thought that was funny.
And then we have this crazy moment that rarely happens in the series where Annie is afraid. And so Jack says if Annie was scared, he had to act brave.
Oh.
But then we realize they've been in terrible situations before, and Mary Pope has only made things worse because now they're hiding from Nazis. And that's a little intense, I would say.
Yeah, that's a lot. Maybe that's why more of these don't exist also.
Yeah. Because the first one she wrote, she was like, they're being hunted by Nazis.
Yeah, but she's like, do you know how I could age this up?
Yeah.
Back to me saying I wonder how this was received.
Yeah. They meet some people, they tell them their French names. A man says, are those your real names? They immediately say, no,
Jack is like, Annie's good at this. And then he's like, she's really bad at this.
Yep, he goes from Annie's a good spy to, oh brother, she's a terrible spy, which was my fave. And then, let's see. Oh my, are things so bad that children are being recruited as spies now?
Literally.
Yeah.
The adults in this book get it. Annie expresses that she indeed hates Nazis. Good job.
There's that.
Yeah.
And we learn that Jack knows how to drive.
I think I missed that.
That was the craziest thing.
I think that went over my head.
Yeah, so they have
Jack
to drive this.
Jack is fully driving a stick shift truck.
Yes.
I think I missed that it was. I was trying to hurry.
Yeah, Jack's
Like,
not
it's
old
not
enough
even
to have
on
a
a minute.
license, but he learned how to drive an old truck on her grandfather's farm. He's only allowed to drive around the pastures, but he's a good driver. That's one of his skills, which Jack says is not true. And I had the moment where I had to say, Jack knows how to drive and I don't.
I was like, Jack knows how to drive a stick shift and I don't.
Yeah, I don't know how to drive a stick shift.
Because they mentioned the clutch. It's like fully a manual.
Okay.
I literally wrote, I can't believe Jack can drive and I can't, shaking my head.
Yeah, literally.
And then blah, 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 blah. He was ready to do anything to be worthy of Kathleen's admiration.
Oh.
Back on the Kathleen hype train.
Can we get, like, the next age up where Jack and Kathleen can be in love
Predate.
finally?
And then so they managed to get these kids out with Kathleen, because when they went to rescue Kathleen, she's like, I can't leave these kids behind. So they get them all out with Jack's incredible driving skills that I envy. But on the way out, they think they're going to be caught by the Nazis. So Kathleen tells them a spell to use, but it turns out that was a lie.
It
And
was
so when
just
they say,
Jack's confidence.
I could never have done it without your magic, she says, yes, you could have. In fact, you did. And I wrote, I knew it! So, loved that. And then somebody says, I hope he's still alive tomorrow and comes to get it. This is Jack talking about the truck. And Annie says, you hope he's still alive tomorrow? That sounds terrible.
I think we're past, there's one that I highlighted that they were talking about the kids.
Yep.
And it says their parents are brilliant scientists. They were both arrested in Paris by the Nazis because they are Jewish.
Mm-hmm.
And Annie says, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So that's like the same vibe as that of like,
you hope he's alive. Yeah. And then they return to Teddy, and he's like, I knew you'd make it because I sent that wand with you. Wait, I didn't.
No.
Also, seeing Jack and Annie interact with kids that are smaller than them was really sweet.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Jack is holding their hands, and he runs up with little steps so the kids could keep up, which was so cute.
I missed that, but that sounds cute.
Annie calls Jack the best brother in the world. We love that. And then when they are asked how they will get back to America, they say in a magic treehouse.
Yeah.
Again, back to Annie not being a good spy.
Just really terrible work from them, honestly. And then Merlin says, I know this was an especially difficult mission for you. You experienced firsthand what it means to live in constant terror, to which I wrote, yeah, why the fuck did you send them?
I also feel like, though, this isn't like the only terrible place they've been sent.
I know. But
or
again,
like the only wartime even.
The escalation of hiding from Nazis.
Yeah.
Same vibe. And then they go back home and they say, I love our lives, especially our freedom. And I said, bald eagle screech.
America.
So those were my thoughts. Any other thoughts?
I think those were great. This one, had I finished it, I think would have been my favorite one of this bunch.
Yeah.
This one was my favorite of the bunch, I think.
Yeah.
It was fun? Is that the right word?
The other three we read, and I don't know if it was just because I listened on audiobook and I wasn't connecting, just felt to me like there wasn't like the funny comments that I like as much. And like this one had some.
Yeah, I do think part of that is how like the voice in your head reads it.
Yeah, is different.
Mary Pope, which leads me to have high hopes for our live reading.
Well, because I read everything so sarcastically, and I feel like he's not reading it necessarily that way.
Right.
So you're probably right.
But to me, Jack is the king of sarcasm.
Yeah.
So everything he says, I read with the driest voice possible. So, okay, any other thoughts before we move to the Turtle King?
No, but I'm excited to do this. How many like sections do we want to break this into?
Let me pull up the book. and see what we're working with.
It was 87 pages, which is a prologue and 10 chapters.
10 chapters. Okay. Maybe we can briefly touch base after every 2 chapters.
Okay, I'm the slowpoke of the group. We're putting it, so I mean, I'm just putting that out there.
For why?
That each time you'll be waiting for me for a minute or so.
Are we not reading it out loud together?
Are we gonna?
Isn't that the?
Are we gonna read it out loud?
Yeah, isn't that what we're doing? Isn't that why I made sure I had the copy with full-size pictures so we could share them with everybody?
Yeah. Let's do it that way. I don't know what I was imagining.
I don't know either.
Okay.
Just us sitting in silence.
Yeah.
No, this is a finale. We're going out with a bang.
Okay,
if Ruby's still here, or if anybody else is in the audience, let us know that you're here for our live reading of this most recent Magic.
Ruby's here.
Yeah, Ruby's like, you better read it out loud. Don't worry, Bailey's not in charge here.
Okay, are we gonna like popcorn read this?
Yeah.
Or were you gonna read it?
Someone doing the dialogue, or?
Oh no, that's so complicated. I felt like maybe we would take turns reading a chapter.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, popcorn read. That's what I would call that.
Great. Bailey, would you like to read the prologue?
I wasn't prepared for this, but yes.
Go ahead.
I feel like I'm not the best reader or out louder.
That's okay. This is a children's book, and also I will be responsible for showing pictures to you, Ruby. Don't worry.
Okay. Are we ready for the prologue?
Go for it.
I feel like you're really about to learn how I read this in my head.
That's okay.
The pressure's on. Okay. One summer day in Frog Creek, Pennsylvania, a mysterious treehouse appeared in the woods. It was filled with books. A boy named Jack and his sister Annie found the treehouse and soon discovered that it was magic. They could go to any time and place in history just by pointing to a picture in one of the books. While they were gone, no time at all passed back in Frog Creek. Jack and Annie eventually found out that the treehouse belonged to Morgan Le Fay, a magical librarian from the legendary realm of Camelot. Since then, they have traveled on many adventures in the Magic Treehouse and completed many missions for Morgan. On their most recent adventure, Jack and Annie traveled to South Africa and met heroes working to protect endangered rhinos. This feels like a weird time warp. Now they're about to head to an amazing island in the Pacific Ocean to meet more heroes who are helping to save other endangered species.
All right. I'll take the first chapter and then
I feel like I could have used that think back on what we read last in this group. Like when that just said rhinos, I was like, oh yeah, that was the last thing we read in the normal series.
Yeah. Okay. Chapter 1, To a Port Far Away. Jack opened his eyes and looked at his clock. It said 6:13 a.m. It was Tuesday, a school day, but school didn't start for another 2 hours. Why was someone knocking on his door, Jack wondered. Come in, he murmured. The door opened. Annie slipped into the room. Guess what? She said in a hushed voice. You won't believe it. I saw an albatross flying outside my window. A what? Said Jack. An albatross, said Annie, a huge white bird that flies over the ocean. It can fly or float on the water for years without ever touching land, and it was circling our house. You're right, I don't believe it, said Jack. He rolled over and closed his eyes. No, it was real, I promise, said Annie. It was a messenger from a faraway place. I'm sure of it, like that oxpecker bird that only lives in Africa. Remember? It led us to the grasslands. Jack suddenly felt fully awake. Oh, he said. He sat up. Maybe we should check it out. Yes, come on, let's go, said Annie. Okay, but we have to be back in 15 minutes before Mom and Dad wake up, said Jack. Meet you outside, said Annie. Right, said Jack. Annie left Jack's room. Jack changed into his jeans, a t-shirt, and a hoodie. Then he slipped down the stairs and met Annie on the front porch. The morning was gray and chilly. Annie was looking at the early September sky. Do you see the white bird? Asked Jack. No, said Annie, frowning. Let's check the woods. Okay, but we'd better make it fast, said Jack. Jack and Annie left their porch. They hurried across the yard and up their street. Hey, I see it now, said Jack. Oh man, it's huge! The albatross was flying above the Frog Creek woods. It has the widest wingspan of any bird on earth, said Annie. It's incredible, said Jack. He and Annie dashed across the street and into the woods. As they ran, a cool breeze made the leaves rustle. Early morning birds were calling out to each other. Jack and Annie ran between the trees until they came to the tallest oak. They looked up. Good work, said Jack. The Magic Treehouse was back. Thank the albatross, not me, said Annie. The giant white bird was circling high above the treehouse. It dipped down for a moment. Then it soared off into the gray sky. We're on our way, Annie called after the albatross. She and Jack scrambled up the rope ladder. As soon as they were inside the treehouse, Jack saw a piece of paper on the floor. He picked it up. Morgan's handwriting, he said. He read aloud. Your badges are magic. You'll be what they say. Clip them on when you land in a port far away. Show them to strangers and they'll all agree. No matter your age, experts they'll see. But the expert to find, the one to admire, is the one you must save from a river of fire. Be honest and gentle. No need to be smart. Just look eye to eye and talk heart to heart. Magic badges? Said Annie. She and Jack looked around the treehouse. There, said Jack. He pointed to 2 badges tucked in a corner. Annie grabbed them. They look like name tags, she said, but they're blank. Annie handed one of the badges to Jack. It had a clip to attach it to a piece of clothing. Jack looked at Morgan's rhyme again. According to this, we put them on when we land, and then we each become an expert. But what kind of expert? Said Annie. I don't know, said Jack. It seems we're about to know tons of stuff about something, like you know about animals. Oh, I only know a little compared to a real expert, said Annie. Then I wonder what kind of real experts we'll be, said Jack. He looked around the treehouse. The only book he saw was the Pennsylvania book that always took them home. Darn, no research book, Jack said. Like our last trip, said Annie. Yeah, but at least then we had a little brochure to read, said Jack. Oh, said Annie, I get it. Morgan said we'd turn into experts. If we're experts, we won't need lots of extra information to help us. Maybe, said Jack. Okay, let's go. He looked at Morgan's note again. I think if we point to the words, a port far away, the treehouse will take us there. Wait, what's a port exactly? Asked Annie. You know, a town where ships and other boats go in and out, said Jack. It's usually beside the sea. Oh, right, makes sense, said Annie. That's where an albatross would hang out for sure. Let's try it. Jack pointed to the words, a port far away. I wish we could go there, he said. The wind started to blow. The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster. Then everything was still. Absolutely still. All right. Pause for...
Where do we think they're going?
I don't know.
To a port far away.
A port.
A port far away. I like the albatross. I think that's silly. Like, what a random animal.
Also, Ruby feels like she's one of your kids, Bailey.
Because I'm reading out
Reading
loud.
out loud, yeah. You put on the voice before you were started.
I did.
Yeah, you were like, okay. Any other thoughts about the prologue in the first chapter?
No, I want to learn more.
I always skim the prologue so fast because they're all the same.
Okay, I feel like it sets the vibe, but...
Yeah, I feel like my toxic trait maybe then is that I have to read it word for word every single time.
Right. Hello, yes, Harris. Finale. We're reading a book right now, out loud.
Would you like to
You
read
don't
it
know how to
out
read,
loud?
so maybe this would benefit you. We're on chapter 2.
I do think that so far it does feel like we're back where they're a little younger again.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So.
All right, Lizzie, take us away.
Okay. Chapter 2. Morgan's Magic. A soft sea breeze blew into the treehouse. Jack heard birds cawing and waves crashing. He inhaled moist, salty air. Nice clothes, said Annie. We look good. Yeah, we do, said Jack. They were both wearing long-sleeved green shirts with pockets, baggy tan pants, and hiking boots. They looked out the window together. The treehouse had landed in a palm tree. The tree stood at the edge of a long, white beach. Sunlight sparkled on gentle ocean waves. There's the beautiful bird, said Annie. An albatross was gliding on the wind. Seagulls and blackbirds with huge wings also circled above the beach. Ooh. Out in the ocean, a motorboat was speeding toward a dock that extended beyond the shoreline. Okay, a motorboat, said Jack. We must not have gone very far into the past. I see trucks, too, said Annie. She pointed to 2 white pickup trucks parked near the beach. And our clothes. Ready to climb down? Wait, our badges, said Jack. Oh, right, said Annie. I have to plug in my computer, sorry. She handed Jack his badge. Jack, that was seamless. Jack and Annie clipped the badges to the pockets of their green shirts. Jack looked at Annie's badge. One at a time, letters were magically appearing until they spelled Annie, World Turtle Expert. World Turtle Expert, Jack said. He looked down at his own badge. It now said, Jack, World Turtle Expert. But what does that mean? Said Jack. It means we're world turtle experts, said Annie. But what does that mean? Said Jack. It means we're world turtle experts, said Annie again. Get it? Turtles? Really? Said Jack. He looked out the window. To his surprise, his mind was suddenly filled with expert turtle information. Oh, I know where we are now, he said with wonder. We landed on Isabella Island. It's part of the Galapagos Islands. Right, said Annie, looking with him. The Galapagos belong to the country of Ecuador. Any turtle expert would recognize this place. Of course, said Jack. It's world famous for having the biggest tortoises in the world, the Galapagos giant tortoises. The kings and queens of the turtle world, exclaimed Annie. I love giant tortoises. Who doesn't? Said Jack. Most of the Galapagos is a national park to protect wildlife. On the islands, you'll find 15 different. Suddenly, Jack shook his head. Wait. This is too weird. Let's take these off. He unclipped his badge from his shirt. Annie did the same. I don't know what I'm saying, said Jack. I never knew anything about these islands before. I've never even heard of them. And turtles? Really? I never knew anything about turtles. Well, we do now, when we wear our badges, said Annie. Get it? They instantly turned us into turtle experts and gave us a bunch of knowledge. She picked up their note again. Listen. Your badges are magic, you'll be what they say. Clip them on when you land in a port far away. But this is too strange, said Jack. I don't feel like myself. I don't sound like myself. I know, but it's fun, said Annie. I love being a world turtle expert. Don't you? I don't know, said Jack. Hey, it's just like the time Morgan gave us magic baseball caps, remember? Said Annie. When we wore them, we instantly became bat boys in a major league game. We knew everything we needed to know. Yeah, right, we did, said Jack. Annie read more from the note. Show them to strangers and they'll all agree. No matter your age, experts they'll see. Wow, this is so incredible, said Annie. When strangers see our badges, they'll totally believe we're grown-up experts. They won't see us as know-nothing kids. How's that possible? Said Jack. It's Morgan's magic, said Annie. Remember when people saw us wearing the magic baseball caps? They thought we were both teenage boys. Yeah, till a fan stole my cap, said Jack. Then everyone saw me as a kid lost on the ball field. Right, that was a disaster, said Annie. Just make sure you don't lose your badge. Keep it clipped to your shirt. Come on, let's go. Let's be world turtle experts for a day. Jack laughed. Yeah, okay, he said. They both clipped their badges back on. Suddenly, Jack began rattling off more information. On the Galapagos Islands, there are 15 different kinds of giant tortoises. In fact, there are 5 kinds on this island alone. They live on. Wait, stop, said Annie. You don't need to tell me. I know all this information too. Let's go meet those turtles. Come on.
Someone's going to lose their badge.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
For sure. Danielle's here, first of all. Hello. And suddenly Jack knowing things is weird.
Right.
Apparently.
I miss Jack's notes forever and always.
Yeah.
We got a little bit in the when they jumped out of the plane when he wrote his.
Yes. I would like to say that them talking about not only their badges, but also the baseball bats is a prime example of what we were just talking about whether or not they had ever used magic to look older. So they have.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Bailey.
true. Straight facts. My turn. Yep. Chapter 3, The Enchanted Islands. Jack tucked Morgan's note into his back pocket. Then he followed Annie down the rope ladder to the beach. Head toward the boat dock, said Jack. We can ask for information there. As Jack and Annie started walking, their hiking boots made tracks in the white sand. The breeze smelled of salt water and fish. They walked between pink lizards sunbathing on the beach and seagulls picking at seaweed. This place has a ton of wildlife, said Annie. Yep, I bet you don't know that the Galapagos have over 9,000 different types of creatures, said Jack. I know that, said Annie. Right, you're a world turtle expert too, he said. Sorry. They skirted around sandpipers, running toward the water, and birds with big blue feet waddling at the ocean's edge. They passed a couple of sea lions resting on their backs. The sea lions lifted their heads to look at Jack and Annie. They seemed to smile. Living the dream, Annie called out to them. Jack laughed. They seem so relaxed and unafraid, said Annie. There's a reason for that, said Jack. For millions of years, the Galapagos Islands were cut off from the rest of the world, so the wildlife here never developed a fear of people. Yes, I know, said Annie. That's why explorers used to call the island the Enchanted Islands, Jack went on. They thought all the creatures were under a spell. Yes, said Annie, I know. In fact, Jack interrupted her. And did you know the islands were created by volcanoes under the ocean? Over millions of years, layers of lava turned into islands. Well, yes, Jack, I know, said Annie. In fact, and Jack interrupted, there are still 13 active volcanoes on these islands. Did you know that? Thank you. Jack, said Annie, we're both world turtle experts. Everything you know, I know too. Oh, right, said Jack. In fact, today there are 6 active volcanoes here on Isabella Island alone, Annie added. Said Jack. Maybe we should ask someone about those volcanoes. Oh, wow, brown pelicans, said Annie. I love pelicans. Jack and Annie had arrived at the wooden pier that stretched out into the water. A number of brown pelicans hovered near tied-up vessels. An older man with a beard was hauling in a fishing net from his boat. Look, said Annie, pointing. Tourists. Bitch, you're a tourist. Sorry. At the end of the pier, passengers were stepping off the boat. Wait, Jack and Annie had seen. They were stepping off the boat that Jack and Annie had seen. The writing on the boat said Galapagos Cruises. The tourists wore baggy shorts, flowered shirts, and sun hats. They carried beach bags and cameras. Mister, where are the taxis? A man bellowed at the fisherman. The fisherman didn't look at the tourists. He just pointed to the 2 white pickup trucks waiting near the beach. As Jack and Annie stood at the entrance of the pier, Jack held his breath. Would the tourists see him and Annie as world turtle experts? But as the group bustled by, everyone was talking and laughing loudly. They passed Jack and Annie without a glance. A moment later, they were all piling into the white trucks by the shore. Okay, let's go talk to that fisherman, said Jack. We'll find out if he sees us as experts. Good idea, said Annie. We'll ask him about the turtles. Yeah, and we can ask about the 6 active volcanoes here on Isabella Island, said Jack. As Jack and Annie started down the pier, their hiking boots thumped over the worn wooden planks. "Hi, guys," Annie called out to a couple of pelicans perched on the railing. Suddenly, one swooped up in the air and stole a small fish from a seagull. "Whoa, not fair," Annie shouted at the funny-looking bird. The pelican landed on the railing, threw back its head, and swallowed the fish whole. Jack and Annie both laughed. "Listen to me," Annie said to the pelican. "Don't take what doesn't belong to you." The pelican lowered its head. "Good! You should be embarrassed," Annie said. Jack laughed again. "Annie, don't forget when we meet people, you can't treat wildlife like they're human," he said. "Experts don't do that." "Oh, right," said Annie. "I guess I just slipped back into my real self." She and Jack kept walking toward the fisherman. "Hello," Jack called out. The man didn't turn around. "Don't worry, more tourist taxis coming soon," he said in a grumpy voice. "Actually, we're not tourists," said Annie. The fisherman looked over his shoulder. Jack and Annie pointed to their badges. The fisherman seemed startled. "Oh, I see," he said. "You're world turtle experts." "My mistake," thought Jack. "Are you from the National Park Service?" the fisherman asked. "No, we've just come from America to study Galapagos turtles," said Annie. "Can you tell us the best spot to do that?" asked Jack. "You need to talk to the people at the Giant Tortoise Center," the man said. "Sounds good," said Jack. "How do we get there?" "If you're walking, just head toward town," said the fisherman. "Take the wildlife trail off the main road, follow the boardwalk through Flamingo Lagoon, and you'll come right to the center." "Great, thanks," said Annie. And they started away. As they started away, Annie grabbed Jack's arm. "The magic works," she whispered. I know, said Jack. "Wait." He called back to the fisherman. "Excuse me, sir, one more question. What's the volcano activity these days?" The fisherman frowned and shook his head. "Not good," said Jack. "The Blue Hill volcano erupted 2 weeks ago," the man said. "The lava is still flowing." "Oh, wow, where is that?" asked Annie. "About 35 miles from here," the fisherman said. "Oh, good. It's far away," said Annie. "So I guess that means we're safe?" said Jack. "Completely," the man said. "Thanks for your help," said Annie. "Have a nice day," said Jack. As they walked back down the dock, Jack smiled. "That's good," he said. "For once, we're not in danger."
Wow.
I doubt that's true. Foreshadowing, if we will.
This is exactly what was happening.
As Annie's like, "I know too."
Any other thoughts before we move on to the next chapter?
No, I'm having fun.
Great.
This is a good one. I feel like you're a world turtle expert.
Me?
I feel like you see turtles.
I do see turtles a lot.
That's true.
They live on campus.
When we didn't know where we were traveling to for a second, I was like, wait. When they landed in the palm tree, I was like, wait, are we just at Martine's place?
Our palm tree's directly outside my window, so. Okay. Are we ready for me to read chapter 4?
We are.
Mhm.
Chapter 4, Flamingo Lagoon. Jack and Annie stepped off the pier. They walked up a sandy road into a small town. They passed a few small shops, Seaside Gifts, the Green Lizard, the Tortoise Tavern. "This isn't much of a town," said Jack. "It seems pretty empty." "Maybe the active volcano is keeping most tourists away," said Annie. "That's silly," said Jack. "The fisherman said it's completely safe here." "True," said Annie, "but bad news can scare people." "Stop," said Jack. He pointed at a sign marked Wildlife Trail. "There's the path that the fisherman told us to look for." He and Annie left the road. They walked down a pebble path shaded by tree branches. "Oh, wow, a pink iguana," said Annie. They stopped to look at a huge lizard resting on the branch. The iguana had pale pink skin with dark stripes. "It looks like a tiny dinosaur," said Annie. Throwback to book 1. "The Galapagos are the only place on Earth where pink iguanas live," said Jack. "They've been here about 5 million years." "I know," said Annie. "Come on, there's the boardwalk over the lagoon," said Jack. He and Annie headed over the raised wooden walkway. As they crossed the murky water, they saw even more wildlife. The dark pond was filled with ducks. Birds were cheeping and flitting everywhere. Mockingbirds, finches, Jack said. Herons and flamingos, said Annie. Blue herons stood in the shallows. A pair of flamingos waded together with slow, graceful steps. They dipped their head into the water. Mine's bigger, but it could try. They're like dancers taking a bow, Annie said. She jumped up and down and clapped her hands. Yay, she shouted. Annie, you need to calm down, said Jack. If you want people to see you as an expert, you can't act like a kid. Right, sorry, said Annie. Jack and Annie left the boardwalk. They followed a short trail through a dry, mossy forest. The air smelled of mint. Bright yellow iguanas and long, green lizards rested on tree trunks and branches. The whole island seemed alive with amazing creatures. The forest soon opened into a clearing. A one-story wooden building was bathed in sunlight. It had a thatched roof and a yard with fencing. A sign said, Giant Tortoise Center. That's it, said Annie. A turtle expert's dream. Right, but when we go inside, remember that experts act cool, said Jack. Cool is boring, murmured Annie. Yeah, but knowledge isn't, said Jack, and we have tons of it. As they walked up to the entrance, 2 white pickup trucks rolled into a parking area near the center. Oh, brother, it's the tourists from the Galapagos Cruises tour boat, Jack said. What's wrong with that? Asked Annie. I just hope they don't get in our way, Jack said. Don't worry, said Annie. We don't even know what we're supposed to do yet. Jack and Annie stepped into the lobby of the Giant Tortoise Center. The lobby was filled with wildlife displays and a map of the building and grounds. A tall young woman with a long black ponytail stood at the counter. She wore a green uniform and was quickly making notes as she talked to someone on the phone. Yes, sir, I understand, she said. Emergency action was taken earlier today, but now they must try again. What emergency action? Jack wondered. The woman glanced up and saw Jack and Annie. They both pointed to their name badges. The woman's eyes grew wide. I have to call right back, she said in the phone. Then she hung up. Welcome, Jack and Annie, she said. I'm Carmen, the only guide at the center right now. No one told me important guests were coming today. Our director should have been here to greet you, but we have an emergency. Before Carmen could finish, the tourist group on the boat banged through the front door.
An emergency.
An emergency.
Yeah.
They might be in danger.
Might be in danger.
But the emergency is not as important as the turtle experts. Because she was like, emergency? Wait, no, turtle experts.
Facts.
Correct. All right, Lizzie.
Okay. Chapter 5, Time for Tortoises. Jack wanted to ask Carmen about the emergency, but the tourists immediately started asking questions. Excuse me, do we have to pay? Do you have a bathroom here? We brought boxed lunches. Where can we eat at lunchtime? I'll answer all your questions in a minute, Carmen assured them. But first, I need to speak to our special guests. She turned back to Jack and Annie. As I was saying, our director isn't here because of a crisis. I want to show you around the center, but I need to make some calls first. Carmen, don't worry about us, Annie said firmly. How can we help you? Goodness, you're so kind. Could you? Carmen looked at the noisy tourists. Could you give them information about the center and the tortoises, please? Of course, said Annie. We can handle that. No problem, said Jack. Oh, thank you, said Carmen. She pointed to the map on the wall. That shows you the layout of our center. Perhaps you can lead them around while I deal with this crisis. Could you tell us about the crisis? Jack asked, trying to sound like an expert. Yes, said Carmen. The Park Service called about more endangered turtles and... Miss! A man interrupted Carmen. Can you tell all of us how to find the tortoises? No, I can't tell you. I need to show you, said Carmen, sounding upset. Sorry. She seemed flustered. Jack, Annie, could you please? Go ahead, Carmen. We got this, said Annie. Make your calls, said Jack. Oh, you're lifesavers. Thank you, said Carmen. And she slipped into a back room. I'll look at the map, Jack said to Annie. You got their attention. He hurried over to the map on the wall. Greetings, friends, Annie called out. No one seemed to hear her. Noise from the chattering tourists filled the lobby. Greetings, friends! Jack shouted. He pointed at his badge for all to see. The tourists looked startled. A couple of them loudly shushed the others. Shh! Thank you, said Annie, and welcome to the Giant Tortoise Center. I'm Annie, and that's my brother Jack. She pointed at Jack, studying the map. We are your world turtle experts today. People spoke softly to each other. World turtle experts? That's a big deal. I'm so impressed. Jack returned to Annie's side. First, there are some rules to follow, he said to the group. Rule number 1. Please do not talk or laugh loudly. Our tortoise friends prefer peaceful surroundings. Rule 2. Please do not touch any tortoises, said Annie. And Rule 3. Please don't take photos of them. This is their home and we are their guests. Everyone nodded meekly. Thank you for your cooperation, said Jack. Okay, now follow us. Jack and Annie led the tourists out of the lobby and down a hall. They stopped in front of a closed door. Let's pause for a moment, Jack said. We're about to enter an area with many giant tortoises. The group murmured with excitement. But none of these tortoises are really giant yet, said Annie. You are about to meet many tiny turtle babies and little turtle kids. Hatchlings, said Jack. The name for a baby turtle is hatchling. Hold on there, said a large bald man. You say tortoises one moment and turtles the next. Which are they? Excellent question, said Jack. Yes, we world turtle experts get that question a lot, said Annie. All tortoises are turtles, said Jack. But not all turtles are tortoises. The giant tortoises of the Galapagos are the largest members of the turtle family. Think of them as the kings and queens of the turtle world. Oh, I love giant tortoises, said a woman in a sun hat. Me too, said Annie. And the Galapagos Islands need them, said Jack. Tortoises are vital to the ecosystem here, and... Can you explain that? Interrupted a large man. Sure. An ecosystem is a biological community of interacting organisms and their physical environment, Jack explained. No one said anything. They all looked confused. Annie stepped in. Jack means that everything on this island is connected. Tortoises, trees, other plants, insects all work together. If you destroy one of them, you harm the others. Understand? The tortoises nodded with serious looks. A few hundred years ago, pirates and whale hunters visited these islands, said Jack. They killed hundreds of thousands of giant tortoises for food. Oh no, I hate that, said a woman with curly red hair. I could cry, said the woman in the sun hat. Me too, said Annie. We all could, said Jack. But fortunately, things have changed. Today, the National Park Service is doing all it can to help the giant tortoises live long, happy lives. Hooray for them! Exclaimed the woman with curly red hair. Mom, quiet, whispered a teenage girl. Yes, hooray for them, said Annie. There are good people everywhere trying to help endangered animals, said Jack. Are you ready? Everyone nodded. Time for tortoises, Annie said, and she opened the door to the outside.
Reading out loud makes me notice so much how much is like Jack said, Annie said, Jack said, Annie said, the tourist said. Like
I mean, written for kids.
Also, I feel like this one so far is way more educational and way less drama.
Yes.
Like we're not
Because
getting
they're
like
not currently in danger yet.
Yeah, just wait. Just wait until one of them gets anxious or scared. Jack.
Yeah. Jack gets anxious or scared.
My money's on Jack.
That's a good bet. Good bet. All right, Bailey.
We're ready?
Yep.
Chapter 6, The Worst News. That sounds doomful. The group followed Jack and Annie into the fenced yard. We'll visit the hatchery first, said Jack. He led everyone to a row of wooden trays covered with screens. Annie removed one of the screens. Oh, wow, she said. Annie, said Jack. Sorry, she whispered. She lowered her voice. Everyone, please step closer and have a good look. The tourists moved forward. They murmured with excitement. The tray was filled with eggs the size of tennis balls. Tiny tortoises crawled among some of the eggs. Jack picked up an egg. Park service workers collect tortoise eggs in the wild, he said. They bring them here to keep them safe. Annie lifted a tiny tortoise from the tray. She set it in the palm of her hand. A newly hatched giant, she said. That's a cute picture. Drawing. I could die, said the red-haired woman. Me too, said Annie. This tiny baby is only 3 inches long and weighs only a few ounces. But get this, it will grow to be 1,000 times bigger. As an adult, it could easily weigh more than 500 pounds. The group gasped. Some baby, laughed an old man. I know, it's a miracle, isn't it? Said Annie. The tiny tortoise stretched out its neck and turned its head. It looks positively ancient, said the red-haired woman. In a way, it is, said Jack. Giant tortoises have lived on the Galapagos for 2 or 3 million years. Good luck, sweetie, Annie said softly to the tiny tortoise. Have a nice life. And she carefully returned the hatchling to the tray. So when the hatchling is older, it will be moved over here, said Jack. He led the group to an open pen. The tourists gasped with wonder. Hundreds of small tortoises were crawling around in the grass and dirt. Some were munching green stalks. Others were climbing rocks or soaking in pools of water. The tourists whispered and smiled. Do they have any brains? The old man asked. You mean, are they smart? Said Annie. Yes, they are, answered Jack. Tortoises are super smart. They have a different kind of brain power than we have, but they know exactly how to live their lives. And those lives are really long, said Annie. Tortoises can live for more than 150 years. Whoa, said the old man with a laugh. What's their secret? Another excellent question, said Annie. Besides having a shell that protects them, their secret is living in a quiet, peaceful life. They never hurry. They spend their days resting in the sunlight, eating plants, and soaking in puddles. Sounds good to me, the old man roared. I heard tortoises are deaf, the red-haired woman said. That's not exactly true, said Jack. They don't hear well, but they can feel vibrations. How do you know if one is male or female? Asked the woman in the sun hat. When it's fully grown, you can tell by its belly, said Jack. If the belly curves inward, it's a male. Now, Annie, why don't you tell our friends about releasing the tortoises into the wild? When the tortoises are about 5 years old, they are ready to live on their own, said Annie. At that age, they're about the size of a melon. What kind of melon? The old man asked. Maybe a honeydew, said Annie. Suddenly the door to the center opened. Carmen stepped into the yard. Jack, Annie, she called. May I have a quick word? Excuse us, said Jack to the group. He and Annie rushed over to Carmen. The park service needs your help right away, Carmen said in a hushed voice. What is it? Said Jack. Special forces will explain, said Carmen. They're waiting outside the front door. You go, I'll take care of the visitors. Carmen hurried to the tortoise pen, and Jack and Annie slipped back into the building. As they headed to the lobby, Jack's heart was pounding. Special forces? This must be the emergency Carmen was talking about, he said. I wonder what is going on. I don't know, said Annie, but it can't be good. When they went out the front door of the center, Jack and Annie saw 2 strong-looking men standing near a white pickup truck. Their backs were toward Jack and Annie. They were dressed in green military uniforms. Point to your badge, Annie said to Jack. Right, said Jack. Pointing to their World Turtle Expert badges, Jack and Annie headed over to the soldiers. Excuse us, gentlemen, said Annie. Both soldiers turned around. When they saw the badges, they both saluted Jack and Annie. Very glad you're here, Jack and Annie. I'm Captain Cruz, said one of the men. Captain Pinto, said the other. Ecuadorian Special Forces. What's up, Captain? Jack asked calmly. Thank you. Rescue mission on Blue Hill Volcano, said Pinto. National Park Service asked for our help. All giant tortoises are being cleared from a small area of the volcano, Cruz said. A fiery river of molten lava is heading their way. Oh dear, said Annie. We assume you're familiar with this sort of tortoise rescue mission, Cruz said. Yes, sir, no problem, said Annie. Jack barely nodded. As a world turtle expert, he knew all about tortoises, but nothing about how to deal with fiery rivers of molten lava. Good, let's go, said Cruz. On it, said Annie. She followed Pinto and Cruz to yet another white pickup truck. She looked back. Jack? Jack took a deep breath. Yep, on it, he murmured, and he hurried after Annie and the soldiers. He's scared. He's scared.
Ask and ye shall receive.
Yep, Jack be getting scared.
I feel like Bailey's getting all the longer chapters.
I think I also probably just read slower. I don't know.
No, like when I check the time on the Kindle, like the estimated time in the chapter, it's longer. Yeah. What were you saying, Lizzie?
I just like that they have the military there, the special forces.
I agree. It's escalated quickly.
It's very amusing. Yeah. We went from turtle facts to special forces real fast.
Special forces, there's lava headed the way. Yeah. Which brings us to our next chapter. Chapter 7, Rivers of Fire. The two soldiers climbed into the front of the truck. Jack and Annie sat in back. Cruz started the engine. The truck turned onto a back road. Then it sped away from the giant tortoise center. Annie looked at Jack. We've got this, she said in a low voice. Jack wasn't so sure. He leaned forward. Sirs, can you explain our part in this mission? He said. A small group of giant tortoises live on the southwest side of the Blue Hill volcano. We thought they were safe, said Pinto. Until yesterday. What happened yesterday? Asked Jack. The lava river split into two streams, said Pinto. One of them is now flowing toward the home ground of the Blue Hill tortoises. Annie nodded. That's bad, she said. Yes, but there were earlier airlifts today, said Cruz. Hopefully our team has rescued them all. But there could be stragglers, said Pinto, and this is the last chance to help them escape, said Cruz. Jack's expert self was very alarmed. Gentlemen, it's absolutely vital we save every last one, he said. The tortoises of Blue Hill are extremely rare. Reports say 98% of their population has disappeared in the last 180 years. We can't afford to lose any of them. Understood, said Pinto. Jack sat back in his seat and took a deep breath. Right now, his fear for the tortoises was greater than any fear of an active volcano. He nodded to Annie. We've got this, he said. Read Morgan's rhyme, she whispered. Why? Asked Jack. As an expert, he'd given little thought to Morgan's rhyme. He hadn't felt they needed it. To make sure we're doing the right thing, said Annie. We are, said Jack confidently. But just to please Annie, he pulled out the rhyme. As they read it together, Annie pointed to the third section. But the expert to find, the one to admire, is the one you must save from a river of fire. No problem, Jack said in her ear. Morgan's talking about the giant tortoises. They're obviously the true experts. They're the experts at being giant tortoises. It's all falling into place. Right, but read this part, said Annie. She pointed to the last section. Jack read to himself. Be honest and gentle, no need to be smart, just look eye to eye and talk heart to heart. That's super important, Annie whispered to Jack. Jack nodded. Those lines were nice, but as an expert, he certainly didn't find them super important. He tucked the rhyme back into his pocket. The truck headed along a road beside the ocean and past the few shops. Then it bounced over a long sandy road. The road ended at a small airstrip. A military helicopter was waiting. There's our chopper, said Cruz. A chopper ride? Wow, said Annie. That's our first. Jack held up his hand to stop her. That's our favorite way to travel, Annie said, correcting herself. Cruz parked near the runway. It will get us up there quickly. We'll be on the volcano in 10 or 15 minutes. Good. The sooner the better, said Jack. His expert self was unafraid of taking his first chopper ride. The four of them climbed out of the truck and hurried to the runway. The helicopter's cockpit had 4 seats. Jack and Annie climbed into the seats behind the 2 pilots. Cruz handed them helmets, and they strapped them on. How does this chopper transport tortoises? Jack asked. We have crates in the cargo section, said Cruz. A moment later, the blades started to swirl. With a roar, The helicopter lifted off the ground. It rocked from side to side and then headed into the sky. Annie grinned at Jack. Yikes, she mouthed. Jack gave her a thumbs up. The helicopter flew over flat, rocky land dotted with bushes and other plants. Pinto pointed to a distant, dome-shaped volcano with sloping sides. That's it, he shouted above the roar of the chopper blades. A cloud of steam rose from the top of Blue Hill. Red hot lava bubbled down the sides. Whoa, said Annie. Jack tapped his finger against his mouth, reminding her to act cool, but his heart pounded as the chopper drew closer. The volcanic eruption looked terrifying. Jack could see the two fiery streams that had split from the lava river. Lava was also oozing from cracks in the slope. Patches of grass were catching fire. Smoke filled the air. The helicopter started to land on a lower part of the volcano. The surface was rough and craggy from ancient lava flows. Through the smoke, Jack saw black rocks of all sizes, tall grass, and thick clumps of bright yellow and apple green cactus plants. Good tortoise food, prickly pear cactus. Jack shouted to Pinto and Cruz. They like the yellow lava cactus too, shouted Annie. It only grows in the volcanoes of the Galapagos. That's where we should begin our search, shouted Jack. Understood, shouted Pinto. The spinning blades were slowing as the helicopter settled on the slope. Finally, they came to a full stop. Okay, let's go, said Cruz. Make it fast. That lava will be here before we know it. Understood, said Annie. She and Jack took off their helmets and climbed down onto the rough black ground.
I have to say that was not their first chopper ride. They went on a helicopter in Eve of the Emperor Penguin.
Which is a Merlin mission, which might happen after this. Because I was thinking the same thing too, Lizzie.
I just think Jack is acting really out of character, being the one who's like, we don't need to read this over, and being the rash one, and Annie's like, we better make sure that we're doing this right.
Being a world turtle expert has changed him.
Yeah, truly.
And I don't like to change. Oh yeah, here's the danger.
Yep. Mm-hmm. They're about to be rescuing turtles in lava.
From lava, yep.
But also from the riddle, the rhyme, I'm getting the vibe that they're not going to need to use their expertise. They're going to need to use, bless you.
There.
What?
Sorry, I hit the wrong button. I went to unmute and I accidentally hit the camera one. I thought I was going to sneeze, but then I didn't. Yeah, anyway.
Oh, and Lizzie, were you saying they're going to need to use their hearts?
I was saying they're going to use their hearts.
Yes. So hopefully something endearing is going to happen.
Yeah, Jack's going to be proven wrong.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what you know, it matters what you feel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Chapter 8, the last one. The smoky air was hot and steamy. Above Jack and Annie, the stream of liquid fire was steadily moving their way. Separate and search the area, said Cruz. Jack, Annie, Cruz, and Pinto headed in different directions to search for giant tortoises still stranded on the volcano. As Jack stepped around chunks of jagged black rock, his eyes and throat burned from the smoke. He moved between thickets of green prickly pear cactus and lava cactus. He bent down to look behind a lava plant. Ouch, he yelped. The lava cactus had needle-sharp spines. A clump of spines had poked through his shirt sleeve, pricking his skin. All clear, Cruz shouted. Annie? Clear, sir, shouted Annie. Jack? Shouted Cruz. Clear, Jack yelled hoarsely. But suddenly nothing seemed clear. He could hardly see through the smoke. His thoughts were muddled. His arm hurt. He didn't know what he was doing. We have to move quick. The lava will be here soon, Cruz yelled. Meet you at the chopper. Jack stumbled away from the cactus plants. He looked up and saw the river of lava oozing down the slope. He felt terrified. Let's go, Jack, Annie called. Jack didn't answer. Jack, are you okay? Annie called, running to him. No. Yes, said Jack, breathing hard. I don't know. Hey, where's your badge? Cried Annie. Jack looked down at his shirt. Oh no, it's gone, he said. It must have come unclipped from my pocket. He looked around wildly. Okay, stay calm. Don't panic, said Annie. But Cruz and Pinto will see I'm just a kid, cried Jack. It happened again, just like when I lost my magic baseball cap. Don't worry, we'll find it. You start looking, said Annie. I'll go tell the guys you have one more place to search for tortoises. Annie took off. Jack started crawling on his hands and knees, frantically searching for his badge. He crawled around the prickly pear and lava cactus. He looked deep into crevices. He peered under a shelf of rock. He gasped. Two shining eyes stared back at him. Jack scrunched down to see better. The shiny black eyes belonged to a giant tortoise. Oh no, Jack said. We can't be here. You have to go. Lava's coming this way. The creature's kept staring at Jack with a calm, thoughtful gaze. The tortoise was completely tucked inside the small cave of rock. There was no way to get it out. Jack wished he were wearing his badge. He didn't know anything about giant tortoises now, how to help them or what to do. He was overcome with fear and confusion. You've got to come out, Jack begged. Please, Annie, he called, but his voice was hoarse. Annie! Listen, lava's coming, Jack said to the tortoise. It's burning up everything in its path. The creature still didn't move. Oh, come out, please. Hurry, Jack pleaded. He put all his heart into begging the tortoise. Please, lava's headed this way. You'll be killed if you don't come out. There are soldiers to fly you to safety. Please start walking. Walk to me and I can take you to them. You're one of the last of your kind. You have to come out. Jack felt tears in his eyes. We can't lose you. Please. Slowly, finally, the tortoise stuck out its neck. It started toward Jack on its thick, stumpy legs. Oh, yes! Oh, man, that's it! Keep coming, Jack urged. He crawled backward to make room for the tortoise. Faster! Walk faster! The giant tortoise kept plodding forward until it stepped out from under the ledge. The creature's small head moved close to Jack's face. Its flat nose was almost touching Jack's nose. Jack held his breath as he looked straight into the bright black eyes of the giant tortoise. He and the tortoise stared at each other for a long moment. Jack felt as if he were looking into a face as old as time. He felt as if the two of them had known each other forever. You're going to be okay, he whispered to the tortoise. I promise. I love you. The whole world loves you. Jack, Jack, Annie called from nearby. I'm here, Jack shouted. Come quick. Good news, Annie shouted. I found your badge. It had fallen between some lava plants. Come on, we're leaving. No, you come here, yelled Jack. Annie hurried around the rocks. Okay, but what could be better? Annie stopped short when she saw Jack and the tortoise. Oh, wow, you found one, a giant tortoise. I don't believe it, she cried. I'll get the guys. Annie tossed the badge into the grass near Jack. Then she ran back to the helicopter. Jack rubbed his finger along the wrinkled, leathery skin of the creature's neck. Pinto and Cruz are coming for you now, he said gently to the tortoise. They'll pick you up. But don't worry, they're super strong. They're part of the special forces in Ecuador. They'll fly you to safety. The creature kept looking at Jack with bright, trusting eyes. Its mouth curved into a thin, crooked smile. Jack smiled back. They kept smiling silently at each other until Jack heard Annie and the soldiers. Jack grabbed his badge from the grass. He clipped it to his shirt pocket, and instantly he was a world turtle expert again.
The
Lost the
rhyme comes to
badge.
fruition.
Lost the badge. Also, him telling the turtle to go faster, faster. Did you say this is a long chapter again?
It is.
Perfect.
I didn't say that, but it is.
Oh, I'm locked in.
Go for it.
Are we ready to find the solution? Chapter 9, The Turtle King. Over here, team, Jack shouted. He rose to his feet as Annie and the soldiers raced around the rocks. I found the last tortoise, he said. It was hiding under a ledge. Excellent. Good work, said Cruz. Pinto and I can carry it to the chopper, but we have to hurry. We're running out of time. Okay, but go easy, said Jack. I'm guessing it's at least 150 years old. The shell is softer than you'd think. It's made of honeycomb structures, very strong, but not rigid. Understood, said Pinto. He and Cruz gripped the big round shell. Then, very carefully, they lifted the giant tortoise off the ground. Ah, said Jack, he's a male. His belly curves inward. So he's a king, Annie murmured to Jack. I know, said Jack, a great king. Let's grab some grass for his crate, said Annie. Go slow and low, Jack instructed the soldiers. We'll gather some natural bedding. Meet you at the chopper. Annie and Jack pulled handfuls of tall grass from the scrubby ground. They hurried through the smoke to the helicopter, opened a side door, and climbed into the cargo area. Jack and Annie spread the grass on the bottom of the crate. A bed fit for a king, said Annie. Yep, he deserves the best, said Jack. The soldiers carried the giant tortoise to the cargo section. They lifted the creature and carefully placed him in the crate. Then they strapped him inside to keep him safe for the flight. Pinto made a call from the helicopter phone. Cruz wrote notes on a clipboard. While the soldiers were busy, Jack and Annie looked at the tortoise. The Turtle King peered back at them. His head bobbed up and down. That movement means he's relaxed, said Annie. I know, said Jack. He trusts us. The tortoise lowered his head, resting it on the soft grass in his crate. He closed his eyes. I know what he's thinking, said Jack. Really? You do? Said Annie. He's thinking, I'll take a little nap until this part is over, said Jack. Then I'll be in a safe place. I'll sit in the sun and they'll give me something good to eat. Annie laughed. You know him pretty well, she said. Hurry, shouted Cruz. Climb inside. The lava's almost here. The soldier closed the door to the cargo section. Jack and Annie scrambled into their seats and put their helmets on. Okay, all set, said Pinto, hanging up the phone. We have permission to fly him to the tortoise center. The rotor blades started to spin. With a loud roaring and chopping sound, the helicopter lifted off Blue Hill. It carried them all away from the river of molten lava. The helicopter flew over the broad slope of the volcano. It flew over rugged flatlands with patches of green. It flew along the coastline and over the lagoon. Finally, the helicopter hovered above the grounds of the giant tortoise center. Jack saw the tourists below. They were sitting in the grass eating boxed lunches. As the helicopter started to land, they held on to their hats and scurried out of the way, leaving their lunches behind. The chopper blades finally slowed to a stop. The soldiers, Jack, and Annie jumped out. Carmen rushed forward to greet them. We saved the last one, Annie said. He's in the back. Carmen burst into tears. She hugged Annie and Jack. Thank you, she said, wiping her eyes. Thank you so much. Pinto opened the cargo section. By now, the tourists were clamoring around the helicopter. They craned their necks to see the giant tortoise inside. No photos of him, Annie reminded them. And please keep your voices down, said Jack. The soldiers lifted the heavy creature out of the crate. They lowered him to the ground. Everyone clapped. Jack held up his hand and tapped his finger on his lips. The tourist quickly stopped making noise. The tortoise stretched out his neck. He slowly moved his head from side to side. Again, his mouth formed the shape of a crooked smile. Some tourists laughed quietly. The red-haired woman started to cry. Her daughter wept, too. Carmen told us what you were doing, the red-haired woman said to Jack and Annie. We've all been so worried. Great job, the large man said in a soft voice. You guys rock, said the teenage girl, sniffling. How did you land the chopper on a volcano? The old man asked Cruz. How much lava was there? Asked the woman in the sun hat. The soldiers started answering the tourists' questions about the rescue mission. Carmen turned to Jack and Annie. I can't thank you enough, she said. I'm sure everyone at the National Park Service is grateful for your heroism. We try night and day to care for these miraculous creatures. We know, said Annie. That's why we can't thank you enough for the work you do, and Pinto and Cruz, too. Oh, yes, I must go congratulate them, said Carmen. She joined the others gathered around the soldiers. By now, the teenage girl was laughing and chatting with Pinto. Let's go tell the king goodbye, said Annie. Jack took a deep breath. Right, he said. He and Annie slipped over to the tortoise. They knelt down. Jack looked into the creature's shining black eyes. You're in good hands now, Jack said softly. Don't worry. One day your home will be safe again, and you can go back to Blue Hill, where you've lived for 150 years. But for now, just try to enjoy yourself, said Annie. Think of this as a vacation, Your Majesty, with nice people who love you. And remember, said Jack, you're very brave, you're very wise, you know exactly how to be a giant tortoise. In fact, you are the real world turtle expert. The tortoise blinked. Again, he looked as if he were smiling. Goodbye, Jack whispered. We have to go now. A few tourists wandered over to the tortoise, and Jack and Annie backed away. To his surprise, Jack felt close to tears again. Let's go, he said. Thanks, guys. Bye, Annie yelled to Pinto and Cruz. She held up her 2 thumbs. The Special Forces soldiers saluted them. Bye, Carmen, yelled Annie. Pleasure working with you. If you need further assistance, just... Go, Jack said, giving Annie a nudge. Without another word, they gave a final wave and hurried away from the giant tortoise center.
I just made one comment in the chat, which was that when they said low and slow, it made it sound like they were cooking the turtle.
Yikes.
But yay, they did it.
Yay, they saved the turtle.
They did it.
We all knew they would, but...
Shall we finish
Any
it
other
out?
thoughts? Yep, I'm ready. Here we go. Chapter 10, A Lucky Break. Jack and Annie headed back into the dry, mossy forest. They hurried past bright yellow iguanas and long green lizards. They walked over the boardwalk and through the lagoon with flamingos and herons. They hurried under the archway of trees and into the small town. They passed the shops and stepped onto the beach. They passed the boat dock and the brown pelicans and started down the shore. Jack and Annie zigzagged all around all the friendly, fearless creatures, sea lions and sandpipers, birds with blue feet, gulls picking at seaweed, and pink lizards sunning in the sand. Finally, they came to their palm tree. They climbed up the rope ladder and into the treehouse. We made it, said Jack. We did, Annie said breathlessly. We can take these off now. She pulled off her World Turtle Expert badge. Jack took his off, too. He breathed a sigh of relief. He didn't feel nearly as smart, but he felt happy. Can you believe what happened today? Said Annie, grinning. Everyone thought we were turtle experts. Everyone except the Turtle King, said Jack. He saw my real self. I know he did, Annie said. She smiled. Ready to go? Yup. Jack grabbed the Pennsylvania book. Together, he and Annie looked out the treehouse window. The huge albatross was circling in the blue sky. Goodbye, Annie shouted to the bird. Thanks for bringing us to the Enchanted Islands. Jack found the photo of Frog Creek and pointed to it. I wish we could go there, he said. The wind started to blow. The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster. Then everything was still. Absolutely still. The gray early morning air was chilly. Jack and Annie were wearing their own clothes again. A breeze shook the leaves of the oak tree. While they'd been gone, no time at all had passed in Frog Creek. That was fun, said Annie. Jack smiled and nodded. But their trip to the Galapagos had been more than just fun, he thought. He'd never forget his moment alone with the giant tortoise. He didn't have words for it. Annie seemed to guess his thoughts. You did a good job, said Annie. You saved him. We all did, said Jack. But you did something special. You got him to trust you, said Annie. I don't know how. I wasn't an expert when I found him, said Jack. Without my badge, I felt really scared and confused. I know, but losing your badge was a very lucky break, said Annie. Why lucky? Asked Jack. If you hadn't been looking for it, you wouldn't have found him, said Annie. Oh, okay, that's true, said Jack. There's more, said Annie. Do you still have the note from Morgan? Jack checked his back pocket. Yep, it's here, he said. He handed the note to Annie. She read the last 4 lines to him. Be honest and gentle, no need to be smart. Just look eye to eye and talk heart to heart. See, you did just what Morgan wanted, said Annie. To get to the volcano, we had to be world turtle experts. Yeah, our knowledge put us in the right place at the right time, said Jack, and it helped Pinto and Cruz land in the right spot on the volcano. Exactly, said Annie, but in the most important moment, you were not an expert. You were just yourself. Without even thinking of Morgan's rhyme, you spoke to the giant tortoise from your heart, and the heart of the tortoise heard you, and he came out of his hiding place. Jack nodded. He remembered the creature's brilliant black eyes, his sweet, crooked smile. I guess you're right, he said softly. I guess you could say we trusted each other. Yes, I could say that, said Annie. I'll never forget him, said Jack. He won't forget you either, said Annie. Tears came to Jack's eyes again. He quickly wiped them away. Hey, Annie put her hand on his shoulder. It's okay to cry, she said. Is somebody else going to show the photo? No, I am. Got it. Jack shook his head. Experts don't cry, he said. Sometimes they do, said Annie. Jack barely nodded. Like, right now, I'll bet experts are crying all across America, said Annie. Jack couldn't help laughing. Okay, let's go, he said, standing up. We have to hurry. Yeah, we have to eat breakfast before school, said Annie, following him. I'm starving. Me too, said Jack. He started down the ladder. Annie followed him, and they walked quickly through the woods. We'll wake Mom and Dad up, said Annie, and we'll say, Good morning, we love you. Now please go make us some pancakes. With blueberries, said Jack. Bananas and walnuts, said Annie. With maple syrup, said Jack. With everything, said Annie. And in the early September... Sorry, it did something weird. And in the early September light, Jack and Annie ran toward home. The end. This picture of Jack crying makes me really sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
But the comment about I'll bet experts are crying all across
All
America.
over the world. Like straight facts.
Also, apparently this was inspired by an incident that happened in September 1990.
I saw that. I read that first sentence as well.
Yep.
Were you alive in 98? Are you 99?
I was 99. Yeah. Experts probably are crying.
Exactly.
Yeah, that was
proven fact.
Yeah, when Jack said experts don't cry, I thought of the last time I cried about a research project, and I was like,
exactly.
Okay, Jack.
Fun. I thought that was fun.
Yeah, what are we rating it?
I will probably rate it 4 stars, which is like a high Magic Treehouse for me.
Yeah.
Just because like the experience of reading it together also. But I actually think it was like a pretty good one. It wasn't the most witty.
Yeah.
But
it wasn't the funniest. It also wasn't like the most intense.
I feel like, I mean, I enjoyed the experience very much, but as a Magic Treehouse, this one sucked.
Wow.
Like, it was like 50% turtle facts. Like,
yeah, there
we
was
got
a
to
lot
the 50%
of
mark, and it was still just turtle facts.
Do you not like turtle facts?
No. I mean, right, like I enjoy turtles.
That's not what I'm
you
here
feel
for.
how I felt when we read the baseball book and you guys were all like, I don't care about baseball. And I was like, I care about baseball.
I mean, I can understand not caring about something.
Right.
I just happen to like turtles, and so but that said, it's not my favorite Magic Treehouse book.
That reminded me of the I like turtles kid.
I think I'm gonna give it like a 3.5 stars. It was a hit for Ruby. Ruby loved the turtle facts.
Ruby's been out of the repetitiveness of Magic Treehouse for a little while, though.
Yeah. I also thought though that there was lots of other wildlife that Ruby would really like in this one. So
yeah, fun.
Yeah, and that's it. That's the most recent Magic Treehouse book.
Until next month.
Until next month.
I mean, I'm sure we will do something as more come out. Maybe not when that one comes out. Like wait till there's 2 more, or if there's gonna be. So.
Yeah, we'll see.
This is like when Adriana read us The Giving Tree.
I wasn't there for that.
You weren't there when Adriana read us The Giving Tree?
I heard all about it
Iconic
because then
moment.
you all were talking about it in the chat, and then Ruby counted it, I think, for
No,
her.
we
My
all
choice.
went and added it on Goodreads.
No. What I'm saying is she counted it as her My Choice pick for
Yes.
Jokes on Me.
True. But I think one of us, honestly, it might have been me. One of us was like, I'm gonna count this as read. Like, I just read the whole thing, and then we all were like, yeah.
Yeah. About what? The Giving Tree?
Yeah. Oh, it was because Kayla said that they were reading it. Was it Kayla or you, Lizzie?
It was Kayla.
Okay, Kayla said they were reading it she was making her students like write a paper. I can't think of if it was sad or something.
Is it happy or sad? Is the
it
ending
happy or sad?
Was the topic.
And I think someone, again, it might have been me, was like, oh, I don't know the Giving Tree. And Adriana was like, I have it. Okay, if that's
Ruby makes an excellent point about when you didn't know if it was Kayla or Lizzie.
Okay. When it's over, time for story time.
Sorry, you're right. It's not a secret I don't fully use my brain sometimes.
Yeah, so that was the most recent Magic Treehouse book. We're all caught up. When did we start this?
That's why I'm like, just a little reflection. This has been an absolutely insane journey.
Since July 2022.
Yeah. So almost 2 years.
Yeah.
I think
in my spreadsheet, I read it in August 2022. I think I read the first ones a little late.
You were. Late.
If you think that you can do this quickly, I think we should give an overall rating for the series.
Oh
like what we would rate the whole series as a whole?
Yeah. Can you do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
what would you think?
Average rating for the whole series, I just averaged all the ratings, is a 3.47.
Oh, mine's nowhere near that.
I feel like I have to give it a 3.5, solid 3.5 series. But I would give it a 4, actually. I like this series.
I feel the same way. I think if I looked at my ratings, which I'm not going to do, I don't have them in a separate sheet like you do. But if I did, I think they would probably land somewhere around 3.5 as a general rating. But from an emotional standpoint, 4 stars.
I think that I will think of this experience very highly.
But right now
and I'm excited to do another series.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe another and another. We'll see what sparks our interest, what we feel nostalgic about. But like this series as a whole for me, I think that the series as a whole, I would almost give a 2. But there were some like standouts for me. So I'd probably give, like, there were some that I really liked, but like overall,
I think
like 2.5.
Right. I was about to say you at least have to give it 2.5.
Yeah. That's what I was saying, where I feel like there's a lot that I was just like, oh, I'm not really liking this, but there were enough standouts for me to like bump that too.
And the characters of Jack and Annie, 10 out of 10, I love them.
That true. When you're thinking of a series as a whole, I mean, to that extent, maybe I would even say a 3, because when you're thinking about the series as a whole and like the characters, and we've invested so much time.
Yeah.
The one who asked the question and not having an answer.
And we've seen them grow a lot. Like, even though even in this one we were saying, oh, this is a very unlike Jack thing, or this is very unlike anything, and that's because of growth.
Yeah, this far in, that's what I'm wanting though, is like I'm sick of the formulaic learning about things. They're going somewhere, they're learning about something, they're in danger. Like, what I would be interested in reading more because of is Jack and Annie.
Mm-hmm.
Not like, oh, I feel like I want more
adventures. Right.
Yeah.
No, I feel the same way. Like, love Jack and Annie, and the books are fine.
Fun.
Yeah. So we will be taking a couple months off of any big read-along things for like children's books, nostalgic children's books, but eventually, we don't know when yet, but eventually we will
in my heart, I think July Is that too soon? Like Wonderthon and then?
I don't know. We haven't decided yet.
Okay, we haven't decided yet. Not too long, but not super soon.
Right. By late summer.
We're thinking about it.
We're thinking about it. Junie B. Jones will be hitting these streets. So, okay. Well,
I'm so excited.
No. No.
Yeah, no. We're all in agreement that no to that.
We're also glad you jumped on board and stuck with it. Don't remind us how many Magic Treehouse books we've read.
Is that how many there are?
We
That's
read
probably pretty
66.
You're at 66.
66.
And then Danielle would give it 3 stars as a rating. But
nice.
Thank you feel like so much.
I feel like if Danielle averaged her ratings, I would have assumed
that higher because she gave so many 4 stars
and like did give some 5 stars. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. So
okay. Yep, so fun. I love you, and I love Jack and Annie, and thanks for dragging me along on this.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, viewers. Bye.